Media. Please welcome Scott.
Okay, thanks very much, Vibewire, for having me here today. My name is Scott. I'm from the School of Media Arts at COFA. I'm a PhD candidate there. When I was asked to talk on the term cure today, it kind of got me thinking that the word itself is quite black and white. It kind of has this binary state. You're either okay or you need to be cured, which sort of means there's something wrong with you. And so the concept of cure, it fits in nicely with hard facts and data of the sciences, and not so much with the humanities that I'm more familiar with. Excuse me. This is a cheeky kind of warning from Yale professor of philosophy, Shelley Kagan. He gives in one of his own lectures. He's sort of pointing out that he's more interested in debate rather than the facts of science, and this is something that I kind of want to point out in my own talk today, that this should be a provocation rather than taken as any strict science. My own research is based in the tools of my discipline, which is namely digital technology. I use interactive media to engage with children who have autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, and I have a preference for customizable physical sensory media, like you can see here, the Arduino microcontroller. This is an in-progress image of a device that I created specifically for a 2-year-old girl last year with ASD. During this case study, I built a series of devices to engage her sensory preferences and experiences. It was an iterative process, but I think what's important to point out is that this whole process was driven by her. During my research, I've started to get a sort of a feel for how stressful and difficult it must be for families who have children with autism. And understandably, they are looking for a cure, a kind of a silver bullet solution to cope with these stresses on the family. I don't want to disparage that in any way. I think it's totally understandable. But what I'd like to point out is I think that at least in part this dream of a cure is driven by the mainstream population idea of what it is that's normal. Anything considered abnormal is wrong but needs to be cured. But my approach in this project, as well as the PhD that I'm currently working on, is that it's the responsibility of the mainstream population to attempt to engage with autistic people, and that shouldn't be by forcing them into using sort of structures that we've already deemed to be normal. This is a screenshot from a video by Amanda Baggs. It's titled In My Language. This video is actually a really big inspiration for the perspective that I'm presenting here and carrying out in my work. Amanda Baggs isn't capable of verbal communication, but interestingly she has a really articulate grasp of the English language. She can communicate her ideas through text and through synthesized voice on the computer. In this video she engages with her home environment in all kinds of sensory ways. And she makes a really strong point in the video that I think is probably best summed up just by taking a few quotes from her. Far from being purposeless, the way that I move is an ongoing response to what is around me. Ironically, the way that I move when responding to everything around me is described as being in a world of my own. The thinking of people like me is only taken seriously if we learn your language, no matter how we previously thought or interacted. It is only when I type something in your language that you refer to me as having communication. Communication is definitely a key word for me. Autism being a spectrum disorder presents itself in a vast array of ways, but difficulty engaging in social communication and language is a fairly common thread. The girl that I worked with last year didn't have written or verbal skills, so it was my responsibility to facilitate communication with her by other means. I'll just skip ahead. This is the devices that I created last year, and so these were built based on the feedback of her choosing which sensory module she preferred, and also the anecdotal feedback of the mother and the occupational therapist who worked with the family. So this process that I engaged in was I think, best described as a form of cooperative inquiry, where I'm not a singular author or artist or researcher, and it's kind of the group work of everyone involved. It includes the girl and the mother, therapist, and all these skills and ideas come together to lead to stronger outcomes. It's my opinion that traditional scientific research with sort of pre-designed hypotheses and collection presupposes outcomes, but it forms what we ultimately consider as being a worthwhile therapy or cure. It shapes how we see our world and how we decide who is different from us. I think that each artist has their own language, but I think good art asks you what you think and it facilitates a dialogue. By approaching autism with this in mind, my goal is to learn about the unique languages of others. And now with autism affecting up to 1 in 150 people in Australia, I just want to encourage everyone here to be open to the many different ways that we can communicate and perhaps rethink what it is that we believe is normal. Thanks.